Hello there. Welcome to Journey to Recovery. Our podcast focuses on the co-occurring disorders of mental health and substance abuse. We present a wide range of thought-provoking, hopeful, and positive topics from a clinical yet practical perspective. Today we'll be talking about keeping your expectations high. Our host is Dr. Hal Baumchen, a licensed clinical psychologist and licensed alcohol and drug counselor. He is an author, speaker, and clinician with over 30 years of counseling experience. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Gaylen Morse, and I'm here today with Tim Bode, our operations director, along with Dr. Hal Baumchen, Journey to Recovery host and resident psychologist. Hey, Dr. Hal, how are you doing today?
Well, good, Gaylen. It's great to be here.
Great to have you. Tim, how about you?
I'm doing well, Gaylen. Thanks for the nice introduction. I just want to mention all the wonderful materials and resources that are available on the Journey to Recovery website.
We've got podcasts, and we have this podcast in audio and video, so it's sort of fun. And we've been moving cameras around today. So if you're listening to this on an audio podcast, check out journeytorecovery.com. Look for the video podcast as well. Then there's some lessons and workbooks and some other things that I've written over the years. Take a look at those materials as well. I think it helps people in treatment, people with mental health problems, or family members and friends that are going through a tough time as well.
Right. Lots of good materials and resources available there. Today on Journey to Recovery, we're discussing expectations. Now, in all of life and in co-occurring disorder treatment, it's easy to have expectations that are sky high,
absolutely
unrealistically high, or conversely too low. And unmet expectations can lead to frustration. Dr. Hal, have you seen that in your clinical work? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, and everywhere else too. So in the clinical work, in the treatment center, in the grocery store, on the highway, yeah, everywhere you go, people have unrealistically high expectations of other people, and oftentimes unrealistically low expectations of themselves. So we want to get that balanced if we can, and have high expectations. I want things to go well for you.
Right. I want things to go well also. I want things to go well for you. And even when things turn out okay in the end, there are often difficulties along the way. Our discussion today will help us navigate that tension between expecting the best and enduring problems and setbacks as they happen.
Now, the way you set your mind, kind of your mood and attitude, is going to make all the difference in the world. So if you can set your disposition and your attitude in accordance with reality, I think that's really helpful. But I also want you to be able to set reasonable expectations for other people and high expectations for yourself, or realistically high expectations, meaning, be hopeful, optimistic, and expect good things to happen.
Mm-hmm. Because things don't always turn out the way we hoped. Problems that arise, they can, become stumbling blocks for people.
And what happens to you really isn't the big deal here. It's more your attitude and perspective on what happens to you. This is going to ruin my life. I'm never going to be the same again. This is horrible. Versus somebody who's like, I'll make the best of it. That was difficult, but I'll get through it. And I've got good people around me, and I am able to make some progress. So they have different attitudes, and that's going to make all the difference.
So there are basically two parts to everything.
Yeah, two parts to everything. The thing that happened to you, and then your attitude about the thing that happened to you. Those are the two parts. So, I think about vacuuming as two parts. So you got vacuuming, which is running the vacuum over the rug, and then you've got good cord management. Make sure the cord is plugged in, make sure the cord reaches the spot where you want to vacuum. Don't step on the cord, don't vacuum over the cord. So you got the thing you're doing, and then cord management, or you got vacuuming and good cord management. Everything else is like two parts too. So you got driving on the freeway, and then managing your anxiety about driving on the freeway. Mm-hmm. Or you've got a project that you're doing, and then you have the anxiety about the project that you're doing. And both of those need to be managed. And unfortunately, people seem to want to manage the thing without taking enough time to manage their mood, disposition, and attitude about the thing. So that's where we're saying, hey, watch your perspective, watch your attitude here.
Now let's get started here with a few common but unreasonable expectations.
Well, so what we're doing here is, don't some people have unrealistic expectations?
Absolutely.
And they're too high, or they're kind of goofy, and then they end up getting hurt because their expectations are kind of goofy. So I wrote a few down that we could talk about. Gaylen, you got one for us?
I want things to be easy.
Yeah, and that's not just true for me just because I wrote it, but also it's true for other people. They want things to be easy.
This next one, I don't understand, because it says my computer and tech should always work. Well, if my computer always works, I shouldn't need the tech. However, they both better work. And I don't want to be stuck in traffic.
So again, we're just kind of listing a few expectations that people might have. Like, I should never be stuck in traffic. Like, what world do you live in?
Right. People should be able to read my mind.
Yeah, another common one, but going to be unrealistic.
My car should always start, even in the wintertime.
In Minnesota, yeah.
I should never be impatient.
Right. So we have unrealistically high expectations for ourselves. And then we talked last podcast about having realistic expectations when you make a mistake.
Right.
So,
Of course, things never really go that way without any problems, etc. Isn't there a line, into every life some rain must fall?
yeah, right. Or it'd be a dry desert when it. So I think we can expect things to not always go our way. We're gonna be okay. Weeds. We're gonna have weeds in the garden, or mosquitoes in Minnesota in the summertime. We're gonna have freezing blizzards in the wintertime in Minnesota. Difficulties are all around us. And when we accept that, we kind of come to terms with that, then our mood, attitude, and disposition is actually going to be better. I just expect things to be somewhat difficult some of the time. Shouldn't you expect the best, Hal? Well, yes, within reason, within reasonable expectations. I expect to be able to get through the blizzard.
Who wants to be reasonable at times like this?
All right, then let's talk about some reasonable expectations.
Well, sometimes people don't understand what I'm trying to say. They don't know what I'm talking about. That's reasonable, I suppose.
Yes.
Sometimes people are running late for a meeting.
What are you implying here?
Nothing.
And sometimes I make mistakes.
And sometimes I make mistakes. And sometimes things don't make sense to me.
Right. Sometimes people are inconsiderate and rude.
And sometimes I complain. Gaylen, jump in here.
You've already covered a number of the ones that I can relate to. Sometimes I'm not motivated or unmotivated.
Sometimes I'm tired.
Yep. And sometimes, like today, my equipment doesn't work and my tech guy doesn't show up.
Gaylen, have you ever had that thing where it's really operator error, but you try to insist that it's the tech, it's the the computer, or
Well, I never make errors, so it's got to be the computer. Is that a little bit too high expectations?
Well, yes, that's unreasonable expectation. The computer just allows you to make more technical mistakes.
Yeah.
Dr. Hal, do people ever have unrealistic expectations about their treatment for drug and alcohol disorders or their mental health treatments?
Yeah, all kinds of them come up. I want the counselor to be perfect. I want to be able to finish this 30-day program in 20 days. I want the food to be great, my bed to be wonderful. So all kinds of expectations that maybe they come in with, and sometimes those expectations are met. Many times they're not. And it can lead to disappointment and resentment and bitterness along the way.
Sure, they come in with things like expecting people to like me, expecting special attention.
Right. Drop what you're doing and attend to my case specifically. And that, we try to do that, but that's not always possible.
Or expecting a pain-free recovery or constant progress towards recovery.
Not happening, right?
How about expecting the counselor and the staff to be perfect?
Right. Anytime you have that sort of expectations for other people, I'll bet that's going to be a disappointment to you.
Yeah. What about as long as I show up, that should be enough?
Right. How little can I do and still get by? We've talked about that a number of times on this podcast.
Or I don't need to listen to stupid people.
Right. That would eliminate about 6.5 billion people on the planet. Yeah.
And I've been here long enough. I'll decide when I'm ready to go.
Right. Yeah.
So it's true that people with co-occurring disorders often can have unrealistic goals. They desperately want things to go well, be in good health. They want to realize their dreams, have things go their way. They want to be making constant progress.
Right. And Tim, I want to get good grades, and I want to be involved with beautiful people, and I want to make a lot of money. And of course, people with high expectations can, of course, be extremely disappointed because those expectations are, don't come about.
Right.
Ask yourself, what unrealistic expectations do you hold for yourself? Or ask yourself this, what unrealistic expectations do you have for other people?
I'm sure that can be a big deal. We want others to do things our way, don't we?
We want others to listen to us, to read our minds, all kinds of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Many people are looking for faults and failings of others, I'm guessing.
Yeah, they're masters at this. They look for faults. They look for what could go wrong or what other people are going to say, kind of catch them in a mistake. Sometimes people have, I say a word wrong or something, I slur a word and they make fun of it. You know how that goes. Mm-hmm. So I think people want others to make mistakes, catch them at it.
Dr. Hal, what are some of the inevitable consequences that come along with dashed hopes and unmet expectations?
Well, that's a good way to put it, Tim. There are going to be consequences, inevitable consequences, if you have high expectations. People might get anxious, apprehensive, disappointed. They feel like something could happen in their favor, but then it doesn't. They're mad about it.
Mm-hmm.
Then they might get frustrated, irritated, and upset, even angry when somebody who could help them ends up blocking their goal and thwarting their expectations.
Exactly. So mad about it, like you said, Gaylen, and coming unglued as though somehow the world ought to just feed them what they want, the way they want it, when they want it. Yeah.
Okay, so how do those consequences affect substance abuse?
Well, again, things aren't going to go your way, partially due to your own addiction and your own problems. So I think all kinds of unmet expectations can occur. So now you're upset because you got to go to treatment, or you got to pay fines, or you got your license revoked or something. And people are upset about that, brought some of that on themselves. But rather than be disappointed in the past, roll up your sleeves, get to work on the future.
Mm-hmm. And I would think that then people with substance abuse problems may default to using a substance again to try and help them cope with those things.
That's exactly right. Yeah, why didn't I say that? That's good. That's exactly what happens. Yeah.
Right.
Hey, Tim, let's talk about some things that we can do to keep expectations kind of going in a positive way here. One of them that I wanted to call everybody's attention to is just staying grateful.
So, in other words, remain humble and accepting?
Right, instead of being proud or arrogant. And you can expect good things to happen in your life without being cocky and constantly bragging on yourself. I think sometimes we don't want to hear somebody bragging about how things are so great for them. Mm-hmm. But I also want things to, go well.
Yes, right. Another one would be to stay positive and hopeful.
Which is to keep a kind of a positive, upbeat, and optimistic attitude. Smile, laugh, and enjoy your life. And you know this line from W.C. Fields. He said, start every day with a smile and get it over with.
Right.
And we don't want to be like that. We want to smile, laugh, and enjoy life. So stay positive, stay hopeful.
Yeah, remain confident that your future is filled with the promise of good things to come.
That's my line about hope. That's what I think hope is like expecting good things to come in my way, that God's favor, or I'm going to get a lucky break, or some way of saying that good things are going to happen here. And having an alcohol or substance use disorder can often bring about kind of a sense of discouragement or despair, even a sense of hopelessness. But your future is not determined by your past mistakes. Make sure that you have that mindset where, hey, I can still have a bright and hopeful future.
If you do that, it would be kind of like each day of recovery would then build confidence, increase inspiration, and keep you encouraged.
It's like that positive momentum. That's exactly what occurs. So you start feeling good about yourself because you've had a couple of days of sobriety, and then that makes you say something nice. Somebody's laughing, you feel good about yourself, you've helped somebody else, and you get another day of recovery, and you get that positive momentum occurring.
In that situation, regrets of the past kind of fade away as your view of the future becomes clear and bright.
Yeah, and being positive does not have to depend on your circumstances. It actually depends on your character, mood, and attitude. So I can be hopeful and positive even though a negative thing has happened.
And in the end, expect things to work out.
I like saying I bounce well. So that doesn't mean that I never trip and fall, but I seem to bounce pretty good. And I encourage other people to be like that. Believe the best. Hope that something good is going to happen. Remember who you are, not what you've done. So that you're not always basing your value, worth, and identity on things that have gone wrong in the past. You're basing your value on good things about yourself, that I'm kind, patient, understanding, respectful. That gives me my identity. And then focus on where you're going, not where you've been. We've talked about that before, that big windshield in front of you. Stare out the windshield. That's where you're going. Glance occasionally at that rearview mirror. That's where you've been. Don't focus on that. And of all the directions I can go, I like up the best. You know, and I like saying that, and I believe that. But I wanted to caution everybody. Watch for that nasty negativity that seems to be lurking around every corner and hiding under all the shadows. There's always that negativity that wants to pop back into your mind, either coming from circumstances, coming from other people, coming from your own head. So watch for that. You got to be on guard for that. That's the enemy here.
Another thing that we can do to keep our expectations headed in the right direction is to stay connected.
Yeah, stay close to those who support your recovery, and maybe you have to distance yourself from those who don't.
Really important to get around positive, like-minded people who support your recovery.
Why do you think that would be helpful, Tim? Gaylen, what do you guys think of that?
Well, you were talking about avoiding that nasty negativity. So one place you can get that from is other people who are not positive people.
They're going to drag you
down.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Connections. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, and conversely, if you're around positive people, those people can build you up and encourage you and support you in your recovery.
Right. And you kind of take on the flavor of the people you're hanging with, I think. But the power of somebody to pull you down seems to supersede the ability for somebody to lift you up, or even for you to lift them up. I'm going to hang out with all my negative friends and I'll boost them up. Like, man, they have leverage on their side. They have gravity working on their side somehow. So their ability to pull you down is going to supersede your ability to lift them up.
Yeah.
Connections with like-minded people offer camaraderie and encouragement. You may need to limit your contact with those who do not support your recovery goals, and belonging to a positive social network will help you feel understood, accepted, and supported.
Well, guys, I think we should wrap this up.
All right, I'm expecting to do so. So again, I want to just say you can have positive expectations even though you've gone through some difficult things in the past. Not unrealistically high expectations, but something, hopeful, positive, some confidence. I'm going to make some gains here. I'm going to get better. I am making progress. Some positive expectations, I think, are really going to help.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast. You can download materials that help you develop skills to identify emotional problems, reduce symptoms, and prevent relapse at journeytorecovery.com. We've been visiting with Dr. Hal Baumchen, a licensed clinical psychologist and licensed alcohol and drug counselor. His expertise and clinical wisdom is now available at journeytorecovery.com. Share this resource with your peers and colleagues. I'm Gaylen Morse. Thanks for listening, and see you next time. Remember, recovery is a journey. Enjoy the ride.